Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of American Horror Stories, episode 5. We are going into the world of Baal here.
Yes, we are. We've got some opinions on this episode.
Yeah, this is the thing about American Horror Stories in general. It's because each one is their own story.
Yep.
It gives us all the power to either objectively love or hate each episode and completely be disconnected from everything else. And we're all on our own weird, emotional roller coaster with this show.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I really like Black Mirror. It reminds me a lot of that show. And I know not everyone has really liked this series, that a lot of people feel that it's taken such a huge departure from the original series, but I'm okay with that just because this is supposed to be a spin-off and it is supposed to be its own thing, but not every single episode is a bop. I'm going to say that.
That is a perfect lead into everything that we're going to talk about here. And it is the natural sort of starting off point after kind of some of the hype around this episode. And even just I remember sort of skimming some comments just online before watching it, and some people really liked it. Did it live up to what you kind of hoped it would be?
Yeah, a lot of people really like this episode, and there are some things that I really like about it that I'll get into, but there was a lot of stuff where it just kind of felt like it was dragging. Some of the acting was so, not Billie. We'll talk about her.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were some things that were missing from this episode that I was just like, why is this, why?
I feel like, okay, big picture here, my opinion of it's similar to the first 2 episodes of this season, where I thought the Return to Murder House, it had some really cool moments, it did some things that kind of impressed me, but it's sort of like, as a whole, I kind of just felt like, why did they make that decision? Why did they make this decision? And I just also, personal preference, I think that matters a lot with these sort of shows, and I'm going to not pretend like it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a subgenre known as sad horror, where it's like you don't find yourself really mesmerized or excited about any particular scene, and you just feel bad for a lot of the characters, and it's just like, this is not my particular cup of tea of horror. It's a little bit too bleak for my tastes.
Yeah, especially with some of the subject matter in this. And, because we're talking about infertility. Yes, we're also talking about demons and all of that that's going on. But this is a very hard subject to make into anything else. I mean, women go through this daily, and it's something that makes women feel like, sad and frustrated. And am I not good enough? And it's something that a lot of us have gone through, trying to get pregnant or, feeling like we can't. And so the idea that this specific thing was used by the husband to try to drive his wife crazy has an extra layer of just sad, bleak, the really disturbing elements to it that made me extremely uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, this is the thing, and comparing it to last week and Bro House.
Listen, and I know a lot of people didn't like Bro House, but we loved it.
Yeah, we will be on Bro House Island for the foreseeable future here, and what I loved about Bro House, and I know that's not the actual name of the episode, but that's what I will forever call it, is just that those guys, they kind of had it coming. Like, they were terrible people. They were doing obnoxious things, and it was just campy and sort of lighthearted. And it's just, you look at this episode where, Liv is this woman who is desperate to have a baby, and she's going through all of these unspeakable lengths to have a baby, only to then find
5 tries at IVF.
It's just like, what's the central twist revolving Matt, her, supposed love, who's just a horrific human being? It's just, there's no campiness here. There's no funny here. It's just very, very, very sad.
Yeah, and I think that the comparison with Bro House here, or not Bro House, I know it's not called Bro House, but I'm calling it that as well.
Exactly.
Is that we had a lead up in that where we disliked the people that we knew were going to get it at the end, where there was a lead up here that led kind of nowhere. We didn't find out for almost 40 minutes that anything was actually going on. The whole reveal of the husband was actually had taken all these years. This seemed to be like a 3-year plan to put his wife through this and get all these other people involved to be able to get this money, was so fast, like so fast. They revealed it and then everybody was dead. And all of that happened within like 3 minutes. Like, it was so quick that I was kind of like, oh, here's the reveal. Oh, everybody's getting killed now. I haven't had enough time to actually digest what they've done before the revenge comes in. And if you guys have been here a while, you know how much I love a good revenge, but it all just happened so fast that it didn't feel satisfying.
No, like, I think the execution of the revenge is always entertaining, but so is sort of the contemplating of the revenge, and sort of like, it felt like we just jumped over like a big part of what could have been a really interesting part of this episode. And I don't know if it needed to be 5 minutes longer or cut 5 minutes elsewhere and sort of put some of that in its place.
Speaking of jumping over, before we get into talking about Billie Lourd, who was my favorite part of this episode, if you're enjoying this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Thank you very much, if you are enjoying this video.
Billie Lourd.
Oh, Billie Lourd. Okay, this is the part of the episode that I was the most excited about. She did not let me down. For those of you who don't know, which is probably nobody, this is Carrie Fisher's daughter. Somebody, Carrie Fisher, we all love. And she just looks so much like her mom. And she just brings all these mannerisms of her mom. And of course, she's her own person, but it's just always a delight to see her. She's a very good actress. She had some great material in here. She brought the scares. She made me feel a lot. Yeah. She's the best part of this episode. She held this entire episode together.
Without a doubt. Like, she was far and away the best part of this episode. And I'm glad that Ryan Murphy sort of said, okay, we're going to give you, Billie, a showcase in this. And I think she's also probably a big reason why a lot of people watch this. Like, I know I've seen a lot of people kind of feel kind of half-hearted about some of the casts for these episodes, that they don't contain like a lot of American Horror Story favorites. And like, even this episode, at the very least, it had her. And I think because it had her, there was some enthusiasm around it. And yeah, she lived up to expectations. And I do think, in terms of just like pure horror, this was probably the scariest episode of the entire season. Like, I was legit freaked out like at least twice.
The rest of the cast, though, and I'm not here to rail on everybody, but, I don't know if it was the writing or the acting, but the actor that played the husband, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, it just wasn't there. I had a really hard time believing, and maybe it was part of the writing, but I had a very hard time believing that her husband was just straight up, whatever you need. You're the best. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
For years on end, that there's no other dimension to him. He didn't feel like a real person.
He felt like a sociopath by the end of it, where it's sort of like, okay, so you never had any real emotion. You put on like this performance for years on end, and I don't know anything really about who that character actually is. And that kind of goes with every supporting character in this episode. Like, I don't really understand anyone other than Liv. And I think for this whole plan to work, I kind of need to get where other people are coming from. Even if I don't like them, like, I still need to understand them.
I think that, I get that he wanted to have a big reveal at the end where it's like, the husband has been doing this whole time. But I feel like the audience needed to be clued in a little bit earlier. Not necessarily everything he's doing, but some stuff that he's doing, so that when the bigger reveal comes that he's actually brought in a whole bunch of people, this has been going on for years, that it gets extra, extra dark and we sort of dive into the revenge a little bit more. But here's where we get into like some of the other things about this episode. So one, I don't know what Ryan Murphy's problem is with NCIS, but he has railed on this show multiple times this season. We love NCIS here at the channel.
We do. And okay, listen, I get that NCIS, it's kind of, I know older people watch it. I know the joke is that everybody's mom watches it. I mean, even like Steve Binder, one of the showrunners, he's made that joke many times before. It's like they're self-aware on it. It just feels a little bit like, I'm not saying, they're jealous of NCIS and their success, because American Horror Story is a hugely successful franchise, but it just feels like they're kind of hitting the lowest common denominator with this. It's like, you guys made the joke once. This is not so funny of a joke where it needs to become a runner, where next week we're going to suddenly have another NCIS joke thrown in there for no apparent reason.
So the other thing that this episode did that, kind of just, I was like, I've seen this before, and I feel really like, I always get this feeling with horror genre in general. So she gets this totem, she puts it under the bed, then later she starts seeing things, she's seeing this demon, she pulls the totem out, it already looks different. She's like, I'm gonna put it in a box and keep it in the house. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll let that go, but already I'm feeling, no, you wouldn't do that. Then she pulls it out, it comes out later, and it's in the baby's crib, and it looks even different. She's like, oh, this is completely different now. Now it's in the crib. She's looked in the box, it's not there. So now she's going to show it to everybody. Keep it beside her bed. Like, it's getting unbelievable at that point, where it's just like, why did you not throw it out? Why did you not throw it out? You know that something weird is going on. It's making you feel a certain way. Throw it out.
It is a legitimately really good question. I mean, even Scarlett back in the first episode, she eventually had the good sense to try to do something else with that rubber band outfit.
Yeah, they just had to explain it a little bit better of what is Liv's motivation to actually keep this thing in the house. The minute that it showed up in that crib, that would have been it for pretty much everybody. Every mom, every dad would throw it out. It was just strange. And then there was other things as well. She keeps seeing this demon in the monitor, and then she'll just go in and rub her baby's belly and then leave the baby in the room. I think if you're in that mindset where you're getting very scared that something is in the room with your baby, you're not going to then just leave it in the room. I'd be taking that crib apart and dragging it into my room. Like, there is no way that I would be leaving that baby in that room multiple times.
I would just leave. I would just go find somewhere else. Like, they already established that, Liv's clearly got a lot of money. Like, she can afford to just go and find even just a small house, go to Airbnb or something, and just, like, get out of there for a little while and see if this follows you.
That's the other thing, too, about the basement scene. So she goes into the basement, she's using, like, her iPhone or flashlight or whatever. Why don't the lights work? You're so rich. You're like, we saw your house. Every light in the rest of the house works, but you can't go into the basement and flick on the light? No, I don't believe you.
Here's one thing I will say I did like. I thought the demon looked pretty cool. Like,
really cool.
Yeah, for like a TV budget, like, this was actually okay. It wasn't really that scary when we actually sort of saw him, but it was like, okay, I can I can believe just long enough that this demon actually really exists in this world.
I do like that they brought in sort of the Coven feel. This was one thing that I was hoping to see happen with this series, because they touched on Murder House. I was kind of like, okay, maybe they'll touch on some other things and other seasons and melt it in a little bit, where we get a different kind of story on something that they've already done. And so we had a little bit of that Coven feel in this, and I really like that a lot, because I loved Coven.
I think Coven was one of the better seasons, and I did appreciate a little bit of that as well. I mean, I wish it didn't come out of nowhere, and I guess in the same way it did, where it was like 1 minute before the end, we finally like get some real Coven action going on.
Okay, and so here's my last bee in my bonnet. So the other big reveal is we had Liv in this sort of hospital, and she's getting help for, her mental health, because she feels like she's out of control, and she decides she wants to stay. So then she decides that she's going to do this ritual again, to summon this demon to then, I guess, go and kill everybody at the house, her husband and all these other actors or whatever. But she didn't know at that time what he had done. That was revealed later, after all the friends were killed and he was in jail for these deaths. She didn't know. So I was kind of like, okay, that needed to be explained a little bit better. Like, why did she make this decision?
I've tried to think a lot about it, and the thing is that this is not a show that needs to have me thinking that much about how something happened. It's like, okay, did maybe he show up at some point at the institution and be just sort of like, ha 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 ha, I got one. I was like, we didn't see it.
No.
So it's hard for us to really know about it. I don't need to spend that much time thinking about American Horror Stories. And okay, my last sort of bee in my bonnet here is that the end of it where she's like, let's make another baby with the demon. It felt a little bit like a SNL sketch where, you know, you watch the end of an SNL episode, or at least an SNL sketch, and it has this like weird twist that comes kind of out of nowhere, and it's like really abrupt, and you just sit there and think, oh, they didn't really know how to end this. I kind of feel like they didn't really know how to end this. So they were just like, all right, let's just have this line about the demon and live like, you know, getting together, gonna have another baby, and then just have that be it.
Yeah, it was a bit strange, but I mean, I kind of took it to mean that after years and years of not really having any sort of feeling of control over her own sort of destiny, her own body, her own pregnancies, and going through years of that now she had an opportunity to have a little bit more control because she has control over this demon. If she wants another baby, she can have this this demon's already given her a baby. Now she has a bit more control over her life of something that she didn't really feel that she had before. So she's like, well, if this is the way that I'm going to have a baby, I'm going to have it.
I think I can understand that. Like, I think it's a much better sort of rationalization than anything I was thinking in that particular moment where it just felt really, really random. But overall, it's not my favorite episode of this season. It's always going to be Bro House. It's always going to be Bro House for me, unless they really hit something out of the park. But
yeah, it wasn't my favorite episode either. Like I said, Billie Lourd, she just saved that whole episode. If she wasn't in it and she didn't have the writing she did, this whole episode would have fallen completely on its face. But because she did as good of a job as she did, she was able to hold up some of the other writing in this episode that just didn't make any sense, and some of the holes that didn't make any sense. It was a joy to watch her, but that's about it.
All right. Well, we'll turn this over to you guys. Did you like this episode ball of American Horror Stories more than we did? What were your problems? You know, share all of that. And as just mentioned earlier, subscribe to the channel. We're here every week talking American Horror Stories and American Horror Story, by the way. When that premieres, we will be here for that as well.
August 25th.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you here next time.